right, welcome to another edition of Grown Folks Business. Um, I want to first say, hopefully, we don't have significant issues, but I've been made aware that there's some little lag or technical Wi-Fi stuff, and hopefully, it doesn't become too much of a drag. If it does, we'll reschedule if we have to. But glad to have some familiar faces in the place. Jay Dwayne, Bob, you guys are becoming pillars. And we got another pillar returning next week. I'll ruin the surprise, but Lisa should be back in the fold. So when she gets back, I'll be on some firm ground, some good people in this space. Um, Again, forgive us if there's technical difficulties. Danya's trying to get us straightened out, and I'm trying to make sure I'm not doing too much on this end. So, with all that being said, welcome Jay Dwayne, welcome Bob. Glad to have you. Appreciate you being here. We'll get right to it tonight. The topic is the importance of venturing out inside your circle. So I'm a circle guy. I'll let you guys give your definition of what circle means to you, but circle to me is reliable uh, people that add to me in some capacity. Can be family, can be friends, but if you know me, you know that once you're a friend in a certain light, you become family. So that's a short waiting period if you're of significant presence to me. So that circle thing to me is symbolic of um, safety, consideration, uh, promoting of positivity of some sort. Also, being a place that I'm held to account. So if I'm acting out of line or doing something that doesn't fit well, if I'm becoming a square inside of my circle, you gotta come help me out if you one of those people I value in that shape. So that's my little soliloquy about what it is to be a circle. So on top of describing what circle means to you, uh, what's your circle like, and who are you in proximity to in that? Um, Take your time unpacking it. I know this is I think a dynamic conversation because your circle sometimes is not as small as you think it is, and then it's also not as big as you may think it is because acquaintances, sometimes coworkers, or those passing by type relationships. I can't include them in my circle. Maybe you can, but there's got to be some substance there. So I'm interested to see where this goes. Jay sent me a text when he got the link, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna say what you said, but to me, this was a weighty topic for you." And I know, based on our interactions in this space, um, you hold relationships in high regard. So I can only imagine what the circle dynamic does to that. So um, I'm gonna start with Bob because he's got some kind of complex lately. So I want to let Bob. I want to let Bob. I
I'm
want
the
to let
cleanup
Bob.
man.
I want to let Bob go first, man. So go ahead and tell us
You've
your
given my,
your,
you,
your
you've given my
definition.
mop to Jay Dwayne. Um, I'm not even sure where to start with that because one of the things about what you just said that I feel like I really is important for me to say is coming to understand in the true sense of understanding what your perspective is on friends really being something that if they're not family, they're not really friends. So we're not going to call we don't have a category for that. And there's an interest that's always been an interesting kind of slicing up of things for me because when I first learned or heard you articulate that, I had to think through it a good bit because the world in which I've grown up in has had always, it's always been a matter of lots of circles, and then lots of different, how do you define this circle or that circle, or how do you define people in this circle versus other people in this circle versus people in that circle and other people in that circle, and so forth and so forth. And so in my experience, again, circles, there have been multiple circles, always multiple circles going on at the same time, and not necessarily intersecting. And you operate a particular way in this circle, you operate a particular way in that circle. One might be business, one might be church, one might be neighborhood, one might be friends, one might be family, whatever. And the expectations or the responsibilities or even the role that you would play in one circle versus another could be very, very different. And kind of the goal simply to recognize how you can be most effective in the circle of your circle. And
I think not to interrupt you, Bob. I want to make this point because I understand where you're going with the multiple circles. The one I'm speaking of primarily is the, I guess, most intimate one.
Yep.
And the one you don't check into, you don't clock in for it. You know what I mean? There's there's a natural orbit to it. There's a natural orbit.
Yeah. So I think that, particularly with consideration of what you just said, over time, particularly in more recent years, I've found an interest in distilling the values, to me, found in each of those circles, and kind of exiting the aspects of those circles that don't add value, and then working to integrate the value aspects of those circles with each other, such that there ends up being one circle as opposed to multiple circles. And you know that because you're a part of that. You're a part of me doing that. And I think that goes to even the question of tonight of extending, not letting the circles then define what the circle is, but constructing the circle and working to integrate the circles into a circle, connecting the dots, and all of that sort of thing in ways that make sense. Because what I realize is the same things matter. The same things really matter in all of the circles in truth. And so unless there's overlap, unless there's intersection, then something's missing. And so finding that intersection, finding that overlap, finding that commonality, and then connecting those dots, and then kind of blowing it up, is really kind of, I think, where I find myself having the most interest and joy, and in the doing of that, you can also discover betrayal spots.
You're in a sifting phase, Bob.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Distilling. I use the term
yeah,
distilling.
yeah. There's an intentionality, and that's going to probably come back up because that's one of the inside of one of the questions. There's an intentionality that comes with understanding what kind of circle you desire.
Right.
And you're at that point of sifting, and so we're skipping all over the place because of the conversation thus far. But the adding of value is critical, in my opinion, and the way I'm articulating what a circle is in this space. What's going on, Meryl? Want to say hello to you? Looks like Wu-Tang Clan. I can only see the top part, but I can't be wrong, man. You can't miss the way the Wu-Tang Clan symbol, just a piece of it gives it away. Hey man, good to see you. Jay Dwayne, Bob actually unpacked a dynamic that I think is super critical to where he is at this stage, which kind of connects us back to last week, understanding when something's somewhat transformative, or however we were discussing that last week, when you're coming up into a place or a phase where you know something's shifting or whatever the case may be, not significant change, but you're recognizing that you're evolving. I think that's the foundation of the way he's describing circle to himself, because he was so conscious of a multitude of circles. But when you go through that desire to add value to oneself, that changes, I think, that dynamic of how you interpret circles, I believe. So Jay, what are your thoughts on this? What's your circle like, and who are you in proximity to? We'll come back to that if you like, Bob, but I think you covered that in a certain way too. But go ahead, Jay.
On this one, I think that I'm very similar to Bob. When it comes to this, I actually dreaded this one. This was the first time I dreaded coming to the show because I was like, I don't like talking about this type of stuff. And that's primarily because one of like my toxic trait is that I see the good in people. And I struggle with them having that choice to be that good. So sometimes I am open to the possibility of what could be versus what is actually happening. And
you stay too long, Jay. You stay too long.
I will give a brick wall the benefit of the doubt. I'll be like, you can be a bridge. You can be a bridge, brick wall.
The milk that's full, you still gonna fix that bowl of cereal, right? I know that.
But I will say now the disclaimers, I do have hard lines when it comes to things. If I can't trust you, you won't even make it to the circle. I don't try to figure it out. I don't try to play with it or anything. And so that's why I'm kind of that way. And I trust people in my circle to be them. And where I'm a little different, like my best friend, we've been best friends since 14, 15 years old. I don't even know why I call him my best friend anymore, because we literally are family. And he's the most inconsistent person I've ever met in my entire life. He annoys the hell out of me on so many different levels because he's just unreliable, inconsistent. But where he is consistent is if I pick up the phone and I say, I need you, he will drop what he's doing. If I need to go to Augusta, he's readily available and stuff like that. So I value when people are there for me in certain instances. It's now being vulnerable enough with my current circle to say in all the ways that I need them. And that's a challenge to me because I've always been somewhat a separatist in that regard. Like, you could know me for 30 years and not know the same thing as the other person. And now I need to work on being more transparent, especially now that I have kids and now that certain things are happening where, you know, even my marriage is changing. Like, there are things that people just didn't know for 15 years. And I'm like, what? And now I have to work on being more transparent because I'm like, what happens in a true emergency? People are not aware. So it's really not necessarily do I have people that I can rely on. It's will I be open enough to allow my circle to be that for me?
You have to be a participant in your circle. You cannot be somebody sitting back talking about how solid everybody is around you, and then be surprised when they don't know you needed that kidney that somebody else was a perfect match for would have been willing to give it to you because you didn't tell them you had no kidney problem. So
But
yeah,
in a perfect world, it works, Felton. Like in a perfect world, like
mhm.
it just works smoothly. If I know more about you and you know nothing about me, it's perfect.
I look in your perfect world. We look in this round world. I said maybe that perfect world is square so. Now I get where you're coming from, man. I think to veer off slightly, I believe by some measure there are elements or desires to be safe. Is this? I don't know. You tell me if I'm wrong, real quick, Jay. But as a protective measure, there's a hope that you being in that much control uh, allowed you to kind of lead the dance of how certain relationships develop or don't develop. Now that's excluding your day one, because I don't know if you've heard me say before, proximity as a child, you don't get to pick your friends. You can go down the street and play with who's there. You go to your cousin's house because that's where your mama dropped you off. So that long term friendship that you have that might have been something that was as a younger person that has a different dynamic. But it sounds to me like there's some desire to just be in control a little bit. Like I want to make sure I got I got a little bit of control of certain dynamics that I can call my circle or call something else. But I just want to have a little bit of understanding that I got my hands on the wheel.
Well, I think for me, I learned at an early age. Like, there was a time I didn't get along with my mom or my dad, and I was homeless. There was a time I didn't have family that I could rely on. And I have seen how people change so much. One minute, people that, I love you, I'm always here for you, be the first ones to stab you in the back. So one thing my mom said that I live my life by, that's pretty dope, is that she said, if you always expect people to be people, you'll never be disappointed. And I kind of live with that. And I know that I have certain ways that I need and require for people to love me intimately. And I also feel like it happens organically. It's not like we sit down and have a conversation about it. And I think when it happens in those moments organically, it speaks for itself. And I feel like that's the beauty of it. But yes, there is some level of protection, but the protection comes from not necessarily me driving. It's just knowing that humans are sometimes extremely selfish and they suck at peripheral vision, um, and
Yeah,
navigating through
does that
those
include
different
you, Jeff?
spaces.
Does
No,
it?
I'm usually the one seeing like I'm usually the one that can tell when somebody is hurting, but no one usually knows if I'm hurting. Like, what
Yeah,
do I need
yeah.
to do? Have a sign and a balloon that says, "Hey, hurting here, come help."
No, so that's that measure of control to a degree, even if it's literally. And I mean, I think I do some of the same type behaviors in terms of the way I carry myself. I am not someone that's easily readable in terms of what may actually be taking place. So
Right.
I dig all of that dynamic. It's still, think about it. It's still a measure of hold on to that wheel, making sure that what you're putting out is being received, whether it's within your circle or whether it's outside, just period into the world, as you desire it for those moments. Now, you can't be not conscious of that because you mess around and veer off the road and hit something and be in bad shape. But the circle thing, to me, again, it's a safer space. It's a place where the pressure is not on and people are actually paying attention. So it's not that they're hovering over you or something wrong, something wrong. It's just that you got check-in time, check-in moments with people in your circle. Speaking of which, Meryl, I hope you got your so no audio. So I'm gonna give you some flowers right now because I do consider Meryl in my circle. This is a solid guy. Work dynamic aside, he's been a super solid person. So today, We were at a conference on equity. So during one of those presentations, the lady was asking, when has a supervisor of yours given you credit or spoken to you in a way that you could receive it as complimentary or whatever the case may be, and kind of empowering. And the way that I answered the question, because I had other examples, but I thought about this space I've been occupying for a couple of years when NC100, who I was representing at the conference today, RELC, whatever. It's just been a good ride. And I said, he trusts me. And that word came up in what Jay was just saying. Trust is critical to that circle mentality. I appreciate that Merrill trusts me to do what I say I'm going to do, but also to add to what his vision is for NC100, not to take away from it or try to put too much salt in the broth or whatever. It's literally a welcome trustworthiness that I do appreciate. So I give you those flowers through Grown Folks Business, and let you know that I had to think about it for a moment, because I was like, I don't have any good examples. Then I was like, I have plenty of examples. I mean, throughout my career, when I was working in manufacturing, but that's the best example I can give across all of those spaces, because trust is required for a strong circle to exist. I mean, man, it's an unbreakable thing if it's got some trust built into it. So Merrill, gather your thoughts, speak on whatever you want to. I'll read your comments at some point during the show if you make any over there.
Felton.
Yep.
I was going to say, I definitely do agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because Merrill has been an anomaly in my life that shaped the way that I even look at business. Because he is the only Black male that was in leadership, that served in a capacity where he didn't try to like manipulate, use, exploit.
Son, you
Yeah,
remember
he ain't try to do.
he ain't try to son you.
He didn't. He
Let me
didn't
tell
try to
you.
do any of that. He wasn't intimidated by me or nothing. He was the only, to this day, the only man that I have encountered since being in this area that 100% did exactly what he said he was going to do, and didn't try to make it feel like he's your Lord now. And that's a rarity. And he's one special, like the reason he asked me to do anything, I do it because he's a man of integrity and a man of his word. And that's a rarity up here.
Yeah, that's circle quality, man. Tango introduced Merrill and I some years ago, and again, Tango's in my circle. This circle thing works well because it's a no-brainer. And the questions I have actually kind of unpack this more if we get to them, but it's always good to have some meat. We'll come back to this if we need to. But that circle participation, that dynamic that exists in there, man, that thing it's an awesome shape if you allow for it to exist as it should. It takes the natural, hey, you can rely on this thing always just functioning in a way that gets you from point A to point B and then back around again, and safely. That's the key element to me, man. But that trust element is big. And when Tango introduced me to Merrill, it was immediate. This is my vision. This is what I'm working on. And we started off with something like in the first year, I had to finish up my master's, and then I come back and he's grown and kept it going, man. The snowball is rolling down the hill, and I jump back on the wagon, and I'm welcomed and I'm appreciated. So all of that just goes without saying. So salute to you, man. Appreciate you. So coming back to this, Bob, I want you to start this question because of what you alluded to about your understanding of multiple circles and how you participated here, there, and that was in your program. That was how you kind of came up understanding that this was here, that was there, but even though they existed separately, you recognized that they were something completely other. They were their circles of their own. So how was your life improved by your circle? Because you're in that sifting phase. Yeah, I think you're almost done with the sifting phase, to be honest with you. So how is your life improved by your circle? I'll say your current circle, and how can you create more opportunities for improvement?
Well, that's a loaded question. Before I tackle that, I'm going to say that if trust is not in your circle, you don't have circle. Trust is the most critical component of your circle. And if it doesn't exist, you don't have a circle. And I'll just be that blunt about it. You don't have one. You can believe you've got one, you don't have one. You don't have shit, quite frankly. So trust is what distinguishes your circle from every other relationship that you have, from every other collection of relationships you have. That's what distinguishes it. And so that's how you can determine if somebody's in there or not. It's trust. Trust is the gatekeeper. It's the threshold. And so I would almost say that anybody that you can trust is in your circle, and anybody that you can't trust is out of your circle. As simple as that might be. One of the things over the years that I've learned is that circles exist due to proximity. Circles exist due to effectiveness. And so you can maintain a circle because you're effective. It's not your circle, it's a circle. You maintain a circle because you're effective. That's what you're there for. The minute you're not necessary anymore, you might be out of that circle. That's the way it goes, right? As humans and as little children, we are programmed because we need the security of our parents. We need the safety of whomever is taking care of us, whether it's our parents or not. We need to figure out how to survive. We need to figure out how to be safe. We need to figure out how to thrive. And based upon our different circumstances, we do what we do in order to do that. And I would call that learning how to be effective, learning how to win in the environment that you find yourself in. And as you gain experience, as you gain life, as you gain wisdom, as you gain freedom, as you gain resources, you become able to do things not for those same reasons, but for better reasons. Reasons of building something that can really have value. And when you're there, and when you can start with then creating a circle or distilling your circle to be one that is all about being good or helpful or pursuing values, then you start really leveraging each other. And I think the most constructive way to community good, because now you've got confidence and power and intentionality. You don't have those other reasons that you're doing things. You're not doing things just to survive. You're not doing things just to win. You're not doing things just to be accepted. You're not doing things, you're doing things out of choice and out of commitment and with an objective that's bigger than you and the others that are in your circle, and you're doing it together as a shared mission.
So critical to that, and I appreciate you answering that question in the way that only you can. You start over here and then you get right to the point. No, you completely and totally asked the question. That was the beautiful thing about the way that you unpacked it. You take your circle with you. I think you increase opportunities for improvement within your circle and within yourself by taking your circle with you. Like you said, everybody that's in that critical realm of that circle, and not that you take them physically, but you take them idealistically. So whatever takes place in this significant shared space, such as this one, you guys are in my circle. If I leave it all here and go be somebody else once I log off, then that's doing a disservice, and that's totally ignoring what my circle is. So you always take it with you. The opportunities that you get to create, the build upon opportunities, are clearly because you take the energies of the circle with you. Because you know what? It expands. And at some point, if you know me long enough, you'll meet my circle. Some way, somehow. There'll be some gathering, there'll be something. And you're gonna meet Meryl, you're gonna meet Jay, you're gonna meet Bob, you're gonna meet Tango, you're gonna meet all the people that occupy my circle, my childhood friends, because there's gonna be some reason for my circle to at some point come together. And I think that's how those opportunities are created, because I can't tell you, and I know Meryl has the same energy. Jay, I know you do. Bob, I know you do. How many people have you connected without trying to make a connection, just because they're in proximity to you? I say this all the time, Bob. I think you kind of taken it on as your mantra to a degree. If I go somewhere and you're with me, 9 times out of 10, you being that person, you're going to just be comfortable. A couple of people have told me that if you know Felton, then I know you cool. I know you solid. That's the level of comfort that comes from being in proximity to me to that degree. And it's not me being self-aggrandizing. That's literally been confirmed by people I know that say, hey man, if he bring me around you and you in that space and you cool with Felton, then I know it's all good. It's immediate, be yourself, everybody have fun. Expanding and concentric. See, you throwing in new words, man. Where you find that word at? Concentric. Concentric circles are key. Yeah, I got you. I just had to sound it out. It didn't look right on the teletype right there. Put it back up for me, Danya. Put the first one back up again. I'm gonna read these in conjunction. Expanding and concentric circles are key to this work. 100%. Absolutely. What else you got? Appreciate the roses tonight. I'm more and honored to the value adds you all bring to work and personal growth. Thankful for this tapestry. This is a beautiful tapestry, man. I mean, this is some hang on the wall at the Louvre type thing. I think it hasn't been done this way before. And again, man, onward, upward, outward, wherever we want to go with it, we can do it, man. I see that. And, the construct was what made the most sense for me, because I am a person that doesn't believe that the left tackle should be throwing the football. He's valuable to this team. You can't have a healthy quarterback if your left tackle was garbage. But he ain't the one to get on the center and throw the football. But he's still a valuable piece to the team, man. Everybody don't need to do everything, but you make sure you got the people in place on that line to make sure you're gonna get some positive yardage. A little bit of football analogy for you people out there. But yeah, man. Bob, well said again, man. Appreciate again, break down that, get that further understanding of what makes you a better person. It begins here. But man, find some like-mindedness, find some people that are totally on the opposite side, but they're solid. some of my closest people I have knocked down, drag out debates with, but I value them. Some of my colleagues from UNCG, you know, I have some dynamic women in my programs that I've experienced at both UNCG and North Carolina Central. You guys in this space have met Ajane. Her and I have some wonderful back and forths. But man, she's solid. And it's not that it's never been so critical as we won't overcome and get back to our solidification and understanding how, you know, concentric we are. But you know, it's a beautiful thing, man. You just got to go through it. So
let me add one
yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead, Bob. One of the things to that very point is that people that bring this other, I'm going to say, angle of perspective. It's like you can articulate something, you can believe something, you can think you know something and whatnot. Then for somebody to be able to bring this other little angle, this other little, it's like, okay, you're looking at the same tree, but they're looking at it from over there. You're looking at it from over here. And it's like, oh, wow, right. Never thought, I hadn't seen the tree that way before. And when you're with people that you trust and respect, and you get that kind of stuff going on, the extent of which you grow your own perspective and your own view of life is nothing short of huge. It's just huge. It's not different, arguably, but it is, because it's nuanced, and it's because it's a substantially different view of the same thing that doesn't take away from yours, it adds to it. And that's just a wonderful and remarkable thing. Trust, both in feeling the freedom to express that perspective, and trust in hearing and digesting that perspective, are key.
Absolutely. I'll say this one instead of asking it, so to speak. If we want to expand, we can. But I think it goes to understanding, you know, be trustworthy, supportive by some measure, understanding that you have to be a participant in the circle. So that intentionality is important. Merrill says, unserious people asking to be taken seriously are all perspectives have value, but with proper context and responsibility. Yeah, just playing devil's advocate for the sake of playing devil's advocate can be, you know, a downer. There's always something that makes sense, but you know, as long as it's not Kyrie Irving or Kanye. Man, there's some nuance there. There's some fascinating. We are in some fascinating times. To bring in that you know, controversial commentary by two polarizing figures of right now. We are in some fascinating times in terms of the conversations that seemingly are going to be had. They're becoming unavoidable. And I think social media is playing a significant role on the reasons why they're becoming unavoidable, because that's a lesser controlled space. So when there's challenges, and that, Bob, that's an operative word in terms of what you were saying about how you get stronger in your circle, so to speak, to kind of summarize what you're saying, that there has to be an element of challenge. There have to be. So we're at a point where, you know, in society, if there is a societal circle of people who desire to be more informed and more proactive in the plight of certain groups of people, there's conversations that are being put on the table right now that have long been without light shined on them. So this is somewhat of a fascinating time we're in. That's a bit of a side note, but we're gonna stick back to the circle conversation. Jay Dwayne, Two questions. Are circle favors different from general population favors? Is there an element of expectation attached to that circle favor? And in what ways are you activated by and or do you activate members of your circle? So two-parter there if you got it.
Yes, I do think you're intimate. And I was thinking about it when Bob made his thing. I do believe that we do have multiple circles, but when you think about your most intimate circle, my most intimate circle is foundational and probably won't change because there is comfort in knowing that nothing will absolutely separate that. And even though good people come into your life, unfortunately, they just may not have enough time to prove that, meaning there's nothing wrong with them, but foundationally, they may not be somebody that you can retreat in because it just hasn't been enough time. Whereas my circle, there are certain people that I can go to and I can be completely naked and I know that I won't be judged without the assumption part. But I do believe that intimate circle favors trump the world. Because your intimate circle sees your blind spots, where I feel like for the most part, the world sees a perception of you. And like one of the biggest things about my intimate circle, those who are extremely intimate know that I struggle with social phobias. So it's hard for me to come into public arenas and feel safe, feel comfortable, and stay. I will ghost you. I will be like, listen, I'm coming in. I'm gonna say hey, but you might not see me leave. But people who are close to me know that, and they have ways of protecting me in those spaces. You know what I mean? But the people who don't know me are like, you're not shy, you're not nervous, you're not this, you're not that. Like, I'm not even going to entertain that. And sometimes I cut people off just off of that because why would I sit there and make up something? If I'm coming to you with confidence and saying, yo, this is hard for me, they're like, but you sing, you dance, you do blah, 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 blah. Do you know how many shy people do stuff? They don't mean they want to be with the people. So my intimate circle knows that. And a lot of times those who are in my intimate circle, if they're in proximity of an incident, they will do more damage than I will possibly do because they understand the severity and they're very protective of that. Also, what was the second question?
So for one, I wanted to just say, yeah, projection is a hell of a drug. People project stuff onto you all the time. That's
right.
That's one of my pet peeves. I totally agree with you there. If I'm telling you I'm some certain type way, listen to what I'm saying. Don't just tell me how I am. But the second question was, in what ways are you activated by, and do you activate members of your circle? So when I say activated, you get what I mean? Like, get up out of bed, or if you're feeling down, how do you get somebody else? If they're feeling down, how do you get somebody else to feel better? Whatever the dynamic is, but how do you activate within your circle? How are you activated?
Well, with my intimate circle, it's the difference of an activation. With my intimate circle, it's almost like the security defenses are down. So I don't have to activate anything. I deactivate it because now I'm safe. Most recently, I just needed to get away, and I went to my brother's house in New York. It was no less plan. I know I didn't have to plan or are you available? It's none of that. It's come, and I slept for like an entire day. I didn't worry about the kids because I knew that they were taken care of. I didn't even worry about me, like finding food and all of that. Everything was taken care of. So for me, because I live in this world a lot of times so isolated and so alone, when I'm around my intimate circle, I am able to recharge, replenish, and not work. And a lot of times when we're around each other, there's always some rebirthing or renewal of great conversations that creates this higher level of synergy where I think we all leave each other's presence feeling some level of recalibration and rejuvenation.
Yeah, that Renaissance energy is real. I definitely agree with that. And yeah, I think that is a good way to process how I'm saying activated, because that is activation. It's not even that you're intentional of, I know I can go here to get this. It's literally, like you say, it's a safe place, and you have outlets there, and you got options and what have you to really take advantage of that circle being available to you. That's a good way to break that down. Don, you can put Meryl's comment up, and then I'll go to Bob, and you can make different asks depending on the trust levels of your circle, but you may need to temper and manage your expectations. I like to invite people to help versus ask. You give them more freedom to act. Absolutely. Expectations is the quickest road to disappointment. So I don't care how close your circle is. That favor in there is different. It's tinged and soaked with expectation because that is a place that you expect things to happen. But yeah, Mary, you can't attach that to everybody and everything within there. It'd be disrespectful to your circle. It devalues your circle. But yeah, it is a different type ask. That favor in that circle is different, but it does not need to be soaked in expectation, because it can be a disappointing thing. Because people do kind of evolve sometimes. Uh, so Bob, I'm coming to you with this two-parter, and I'm pretty sure you get the gist of where I was trying to go with it, about circles, circle favors being different than general population favors, but also in what ways are you activated by your circle, and how do you activate members within your circle?
A few things about all that. One is the people in your circle. You ought to know well enough to understand what they give you when they give it to you, and not expect it to be something other than what that person would give you. So you know, if you go to a person that you know well and you expect something that that person isn't going to give you, that's ridiculous. And so I think when we're talking about our circle, we're already cleaning that up a good bit. We're already not, and we are appreciative of what is coming genuinely from that person in the circle. We're not looking for something that we're wanting differently than what that person brings to us genuinely. And so I think and that's different than the rest of the world. That's different than our interaction with the rest of the world. In the circle, I think that's really an important thing to understand and respect and appreciate and raise up, right? You know, there are circle people for me that I really touch with every day, literally every day. There's a touch point. There are others that it might be 3 months, 4 months. And yet, if I needed something, or if I reached out just because we haven't for 6 months, I know exactly what that's going to look like. And it's going to be like we've never been apart. That's just the way that is. And so Jay Dwayne is a huge advocate for authenticity. And I greatly respect that. I am too. What comes with that is a life of exhaustion, because that is a huge, listen to what Jay Dwayne has said. In our culture, in our world, to value authenticity like he does and like I do, and the challenges that exist in being able to actually live that out and what it takes from you in order to try to do that and be effective at the same time, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And because the world doesn't want that. The world wants what they want from you. They don't give a shit about your authenticity. They want what you can give them, and they want what they can get from you.
I take great pleasure in that journey, Bob. I don't find it to be too much of a struggle. I love the fact that
you find pleasure in it.
Yeah, I love the exactly. I love the fact that you guys articulate your purview so well that I can identify with them, and I hope that I do the same. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to add this. I'm not a multi-circle guy. My circle expands, it may contract, it's concentric, but it's one thing, even if it's multiple.
And I agree with that. I think that's exactly right. And I think that is a key distinction in kind of our operational reality of the world. You are a one circle guy, and the rest of the world is the rest of the world. And Jay Dwayne and I are multi-circle guys, and we have to, and we want to be effective because we value effectiveness. Lack of effectiveness, what's the point? What's the point? And so
there's a multitude of we may have to have a multi-parter on this conversation and topic, because philosophically speaking, again, I get where you guys are coming from. I hear it and I process it. I completely get it. The adherence that I have is not better, worse, or different. It's just my leaning. But last question, and it's a short one. And
Felton, ours is better than you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Our perspective is better than yours.
Oh, Jay,
it's 2-1, so you have to yield. I'm joking.
You see where my box is on this screen, man? It's at the top, man. It's up here. You understand?
I see the glamour shot.
Hey, Don,
even without that, the glamour shot is
to the lower left-hand corner.
Look, I wasn't even talking about that. I'm talking about the live. But Jay, get on out of here, man.
We see that glamour shot under.
There we go, right there in the middle. There you go. You be right there, Don. You appreciate it, man. I'm gonna hold all this stuff together. But no, man. Last question, and Jay, I'll start with you. How strong is your circle? Mine is that individual one circle, might be multiples inside of it, but there's one circle, and it's very strong. It's super strong. It's so strong that if I fall, I know I won't hit the floor. So, Jay, how strong is your circle?
Whew, that's heavy. I feel like my circle has an umbilical cord, and that's what makes it strong. It's what it's rooted and connected to. So it's when it's tapping in and out of that that time that it needs that nourishment. I believe that is very strong. But it's really the source for me. The source of all is really what I think is more stronger, because it gives that nourishment to that circle for me. And I think that that's what I would rely on more than even the circle.
Yeah, dig it. That's a wonderful orbit to exist in. Something's coming in at all points in time, and it's beneficial, and it's edifying, and it's provide nourishment. Dig that. Merritt, I hope you type in the answer to your question. How strong is your circle? We'll save yours for last. Bob, how strong is your circle?
I'll say this. My circle is strong enough that I am willing to test the break of it if that's necessary.
that was literally where I was going to leave off as a potential jumping off point for the next conversation, Bob. Have you tested yourself?
I,
And
I have every confidence that I can test it in every way, and I'm not concerned.
there it is. Fall, but don't hit the floor. I dig it. Meryl, you got some comments you typing, you getting your you getting your one, 1, 2, 3 at a time. I can't do no better. Don't look. No, I'm man. I got joked on. Agree with Bob. I think it's a thick rubber band. Absolutely, man. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time spent here, guys. It's never not. I appreciate you all so much. And again, Meryl, thanks for letting me do what I do in these spaces, man. And that means a lot because I feel like there's value add, and it's mutual. It's not one way or the other. It's both. Party at the Pole Saturday 11/5, Zion Baptist Church in Reedsville. I know I won't be able to make that, but tomorrow we're doing the RELC gathering at the winery. I know that's not something that everybody can come to, but looking forward to doing that. Just on with it up, man. Let's keep building this thing and make the world the way that makes sense for us all, not just a few. So thank you guys for being here, sharing the time. Have a wonderful night. Take care. Enjoy what's looking to be a beautiful weekend.